other groups that come in, and I have a situation on my street right now where a neighbor bought a house and has rented the house out to 8 kids that play on the Curry lacrosse team. I got a worse problem than a sober house in my neighborhood. Now, you look at it and you say to yourself, should there be checks and balances on those kids too? Because they came in, there were 300 kids on my street the other night. 300 that were on my street. So I look back and look at what they did, and I know that I think Senator Keenan was a little apprehensive about it. Jim Timmons was apprehensive about it if you were, getting too far into it, but I think people need, I agree with it, I think people need a warning system, a little bit of warning system that the sober house is gonna be in the up and up, it's gonna be well kept, it's gonna be what they're saying it's gonna be, the people that are in the house are the people that are supposed to be in the house. But I look at the example, it's funny, and not that funny, but on my street, and this guy just rented out blind, he's in the process right now of going through a process of moving these guys along to their next place because they just won't stop, and they've I think violated some ordinances about having so many parties type of thing in the neighborhood. I'm not sure on the ins and outs of that, but I think you should be notified that you're going to get it, and so the community is on the up and up on what's coming into your neighborhood. One popped up on Greenleaf Street at the corner of Putnam, Edgemere, and Greenleaf, and which is close to my house. And the folks had a few meetings with the present councilor and some city officials, and it wasn't expressed as clearly as they would have liked, and all of a sudden it was on top of them. So I think there should be some type of warning that you're going to get it in your neighborhood, and then folks can talk about it.
I agree with a lot of that. I think there should be communication. I think the sober houses, for their own sake and for the sake of their residents, should run a really nice community. I think they should be great neighbors. I think their properties should be immaculate, and they should be respectful of the street they're living in, because it's important. If we're going to be serious about opioid addiction and solving that problem, they're going to be a big part of the solution. When you need these houses, because if you send people off to institutional living, a subculture begins to happen. I mean, I learned a lot about this through my family who works in this back in Pennsylvania. And it's important that they be part of the community as they recover, so that when they're back on the road to recovery, they can integrate back into society without struggle. And so I'm all for them being good neighbors and having a thriving presence in our neighborhood, because they're an important part of the recovery process. That being said, the city councilor should not be surprised to see one pop up. City council should know ahead of time. They should be out there, again, canvassing the community, letting people know what's coming. And then they should be on the front step of that house when it opens with a plate of cookies, introducing themselves, saying, I'm your city councilor, and this is what we expect from our community neighbors. And if we have a community effect in place, then I think they will act like good neighbors.
Yeah.
Okay, so the
Since you've been reading everybody else's.
A member of the audience, anyway, my own question, and the first part of my question is rhetorical, okay? I don't want to put anybody on the spot. But as a halfway house in Quincy that's been here almost 50 years, a social recovery home, I challenge anybody in this room to tell me where that's located. There was also, you don't have to answer, David. I think most people don't even know what's there. That's my point. There's also a solar house off of Wollaston Beach. Very good neighbors to people. There's one up on Arlington Street in North Quincy. I can name it. And these are not part of chains. Well, the one on Arlington Street might be, but these other ones are not. And they run well. They run that people are screened well and all that. Now, on the other hand, we have rooming houses, particularly up around, up in the area of the Y, up in Quincy Center and all that. And then, there's not a lot you can do about Father Bills, but if you look at the sex offender registry, if they're not in front of the bills, they're usually in one of those rooming houses. Down there, anybody saying a word about that, they're in our neighborhood unannounced, with, nobody saying a word. I would be more concerned about the guy sitting on a rooming house on Spear Street or wherever he is, than the person trying to make their life better, sitting in a recovery home. So, I'd invite you to respond to that.
Well, I think that goes back to my point when I was, really telling that true story about the guys that are on my street now. That, there are different situations. The sex offenders should be identified immediately. And I know where you're talking and what areas that they're in. Up in the Spear Street, the Francis Street area, but that's why I think the other night when they got into that conversation about this ordinance, they were looking at, I think trying to say it might end up being more to broaden it, to say if you're gonna try to, just zero in on these guys that probably are gonna be fine, The Greenleaf house at Edgemere and Greenleaf is in great shape. It's a beautiful house, and as you said, John, about that recovery house, you wouldn't even know it, You wouldn't even know it. So, I would be more concerned with what you're talking about right now than the folks at the sober house, as long as, the place is well kept, they go by the rules, they understand what's happening, and it doesn't turn into a horror show. That, that we're on top of it right from the beginning, and as councils, we should be on top of it, and I think that's what they're looking for, just to get some notification. But maybe not just sober houses, maybe it's gonna get bigger. Yeah, it's gonna get bigger to what you're talking about.
It should be more broad.
Right,
Yeah.
and I think it probably will, and that's what Jim Timmons and Senator Keenan were leaning to that night, saying, you can't pick on that gang. And, in regards to Father Bills, I know we talked a little bit about Father Bills, and they might relocate, whatever, but there's another group you have to take care of. I know they're in a tough position down there where they were put in, and they don't have any training, they need a new facility. They're all jammed into that old registry down there. They need a new facility and a new location. And when I was down there earlier in the year, in regards to that, to those guys at Father Bill's, meeting with the management down there, right away they said, maybe Braintree, Weymouth, Quincy, a regional approach. Put it where it's advantageous to the folks at Father Bill's. They have a bus line, and also build it so they have some training facilities and not just bunk beds, and have something to eat out the front door. So it all matters. I agree.
We actually, said until 8:30, if you guys don't mind staying, and just answering, we're not gonna get any more questions.
Spirited audience out here.
If you don't mind. So, Mike,
Yeah,
don't make it long though, like the last one.
I won't.
Don't let it go.
Mike's getting
You're gonna ask another question.
And it relates to Louis' parking lot. We got wrapped up in it, so I didn't get a chance to complete it. On one side of Louis' parking lot is Residence A. Behind Louis' parking lot is Residence A. It abuts its natural boundary by a street. Therefore, the zoning would not be spot zoning if it was rezoned to Residence A. If it was rezoned to Residence A, the non-conforming rights of the owner would stay in perpetuity until the use was changed. But that neighborhood would not have to worry about a 4-story condo building if it was zoned to Residence A. And as I said, they would continue to use it in a non-conforming use. But it also takes away the threat of going to put a 4-story building there. The only reason that lot is zoned Business B is because of the business, that's all. So it doesn't hurt the business at all, but it would give the neighborhood a great deal of comfort knowing that it was Residence A, and if anything ever happened, it could only be single-family homes in there. So my question is that if you got elected, would you be willing to change the zoning to Residence A?
Yes.
Yes, I would too also, Mike. I would look at again, I'm gonna look at the whole situation down there in regards to everything that was brought up at a few community meetings early on, and yes, I would entertain that.
Right, before the next one, Thursday at Quincy High School, the City Democratic Committee is holding a candidates night for all the candidates. The the school committee, council at large, and I guess the Washington council as well, right? You guys gonna get, yeah. So that's at 6:45, and it's till 8:45, I believe, yeah. One last question?
Yeah.
Anybody else got any questions?
Yeah,
This is the last question.
something that's I've noticed is, at least in housing, and I'm sure in other areas of Ward 1, there are a number of foreclosed properties. And the thing that bothers me is not so much that they're foreclosed, it's just the fact that the people who own them, i.e. the banks, are not maintaining these properties, so they rot, and they end up destroying and really messing up the rest of the neighborhood. 970 C Street managed to finally get an investor, but that place looked like hell for the longest time. Some guy lives right next door to him, he's doing the best he can to make his new place look great. He's got the flowers and everything, and theirs is destroyed. And 713 Stoughton is the same thing. You've got these places that are just, going to hell in a handbasket. And who's going to get the banks to maintain these properties? That's all it is. Get out there and mow the lawn. That's, we know that these are, and because they're really affecting the value of the properties.
We have blight laws for a reason, and we should start enforcing them, and it'll pay for itself, because you'll have increased property taxes because that street will be full of higher assessed properties without a property that's in blight right next door to it. So we should be, enforcing these things. There's a few departments in the city that seem to be too thinly staffed. I think we should be enforcing blight. We haven't had a conservation agent in Quincy since 2010. I don't know why we just stopped having one. So when people are messing up properties or dumping something where they shouldn't, we have nobody who enforces that. And it's been 7 years now. So we need to take care of those types of problems, and it'll self-fund because of the assessed properties will go up, and it'll be a better quality of life for people on those streets.
All right, with that, we're gonna have a closing. You guys make your final pitch to the voters.
We need to get rid of those houses.
You want me to go? We flipping a coin again?
Yeah, you choose.
Sure. Rock, paper, scissors.
First of all, thank you. Thank Mike Berry, thank the committee, the Ward 1. They're very active down here, and we knew it was going to be a good night and well attended. So thanks for coming in, and thanks for the questions. I think they were all good questions. They all have to do with Ward 1 issues. Again, my name's Dave McCarthy, and I'm running for this council seat after being on the school committee for 12 years. I served from 2004 to 2015 on the Quincy School Committee. I'm a former Park and Rec board member. I currently sit on the Mayor's Citizens Action Committee for the downtown. I got selected because I live in that part of the ward up near the downtown. And it's been very, very beneficial in regards to having input about the T station, about traffic and different things, and I enjoy it. I also sit on the Quincy College Board of Governors. I sit on the Board of Directors for South Shore Mental Health, and I'm on the Board of Trustees for the Carroll Center for the Blind. I like community service. I like being involved and helping people. My wife and I are married for 32 years. She grew up in Quincy Point. I grew up in Howe's Neck, up on the hill. And we have 8 wonderful children that have gone through the Quincy public school system in Marymount, Broadmeadows, and Quincy High. So we're vested in Quincy. We came back this way. When we first got married, we lived with my in-laws in Abington for a brief time, which was a lot of fun. And then we moved back to Braintree, and we kept coming home. And we wanted to come home. When I didn't make out as Councillor at Large a year and a half ago, I still knew I had plenty of gas in the tank, and I wanted to run again and get involved and help the city. Ward 1 has always had a soft spot with me. My kids give me a hard time because I have to drive down here a lot and tell them where everybody lived. And the house names don't change. Whoever lived here in the 60s and the 70s, that's the name of the house, even if you folks are in those houses right now. So Ward 1 came up and I felt it was a good time for me to run. I've run hard all summer. I think I'm able to work with the administration in a positive way, work proactively with the councilors to get things done. And I think I can represent Ward 1 in a very, very good fashion. So I humbly ask for your vote on November 7th. I enjoy it. I'm proactive. I'll be out there and visible. You'll see me a lot. I enjoy it and would love your vote on November 7th. Thank you.
Hi, as you all know, my name is Joe Murphy, and I'm a political newcomer here. This is my first campaign. I've lived